Hi, it's Maya here, and it's time for my BookTubeAthon wrap-up. Now I'm going to go through everything I read during the BookTubeAthon, and some of these you might already have seen in my day 1 to 4 vlog, but I'm still going to quickly go through them again. On first day I listened to the audiobook of The Strange Library by Haruki Murakami, and this is a short story. The audiobook version took about 1 hour only, if I remember correctly, and it's a story about a boy who gets trapped in a weird library. Because I don't often listen to audiobooks, it was quite strange listening to this one, because I most often listen to podcasts, and one podcast in particular, which is Welcome to Night Vale. In that one there's also often strange libraries in the episodes, so at first I felt a little bit like I was listening to an episode of Welcome to Night Vale, but I got over it pretty quickly. The narrator was fine. I didn't like the way he did the voice of the main character, and in extension the main narration, because it was narrated by the main character. But I liked his voices for the other characters, especially the sheep man, which was a very sympathetic character, and he did a very sympathetic voice. I enjoyed the story, but I didn't like the ending that much, but I think in this particular case the journey mattered more than the ending. So I liked The Strange Library and I gave it 4 stars. Next I read the Station 11 ebook, which I had borrowed from the library. It's a post-apocalyptic novel, and it follows a group of people after this flu outbreak that killed most of the people on Earth. And it follows these particular characters that are loosely connected through a man they all knew before the outbreak. And I was really surprised at how much I liked this book. I was under the impression that this was more literary fiction with some genre tendencies, and most often I don't like that. But in this case, I was so into it. It was very addictive. The writing style just flowed, and it was very quick and easy to read, and I got stuck in it, and I always ended up reading far longer than I should in the night. It was lovely and understated and sincere and affecting, and I really liked the themes of it, and the quote that was often repeated during the book, which is "survival is insufficient," which I think they said is from Star Trek. Most of the time it followed this group of theatre people and musicians that were going around the post-apocalyptic world putting on their shows. And I would really recommend this book, especially if you have any artistic tendencies, whether you're a musician or an artist or an actor. I would recommend this. I really liked the themes of creativity. And I also liked how it took place about 15 years after the post-apocalyptic event. There were some flashbacks to the lives of the characters before the event, but I like that the world had managed to calm down a bit, that we weren't following the outbreak and what happened during the months just after the outbreak, but instead it was like 15 years in the future. There was one thing where this book could have gone wrong for me, which is by the introduction of the prophet character. I hate those sorts of characters. I know they aren't even meant to be likable. You know, the prophets that arise after a post-apocalyptic event, and they have this sort of cult around them, and I really don't have the patience to read about those egotistical cult leaders. But I think it was handled very well. It wasn't given too much of an emphasis on the book, and I think the prophet was given just enough screen time that it didn't take away from my enjoyment. And like I said, I was very surprised by how much I liked this, and I gave Station 11 4.5 stars. Station 11 and The Strange Library are both nominated for the BookTube SFF Awards. They are currently reading Station 11 at the Goodreads group for the awards. You can hop on over there and read what people are thinking. Next I picked up Batgirl Volume 1, Batgirl of Burnside, by Cameron Stewart and Brendan Fletcher, with art by Babstar. This completed the challenge of read a book with blue undercover and read your most latest purchase. And this collects the issues 35 to 40 of Batgirl, but you don't have to have read the issues beforehand, because this is actually a reboot of Batgirl. And it's a very different take on Batgirl from what I've heard. I haven't read the earlier ones. I found the writing and plotting to be pretty basic. There were some fun character interactions, and there was this nice sense of fun with the stories, but you could guess how they went, and they weren't anything new. But I really like the artwork. I've been following Babstar online, and that was part of the reason, well, most of the reason that I picked up this. Here's a little look at the art. I found the art style very charming, and the coloring, which is by Maris Wicks, really complements Babstar's artwork. Also, the cover illustrations which are included and which are by Cameron Stewart. They're also pretty striking. And overall, I really like the visual style of this book. If it was just for the art, I would have easily given this 5 stars, but overall I gave it 3 stars. Next, I completed the challenge of reading something from an author who shares the first letter of my last name, and that was Silently and Very Fast by Catherine M. Valenti. It's a short novella. I read it as an ebook from the library, but it's also available for free online. And it's a gorgeously written philosophical story about an AI who has been an AI for this one family for generations. It always gets linked to one particular person from each generation, and as time goes by it evolves and it starts to wonder whether it is alive and what it means to be alive. And it's narrated by the AI. I really felt for the AI, and when you add to that Valenti's beautiful and atmospheric writing style, it was a very emotional novella. Again, I wasn't a big fan of the ending, but I always have trouble with the endings of short stories, so that is just me. I most often like the build-up more than the sudden ending, and I gave Silently and Very Fast 4 stars. In addition to these, I also read Le Mauvais Rêve by Pierre Christin and Jean-Claude Messier from the library, and I feel the challenge of reading a book without letting go of it. It's the first book in the Adventures of Valerian from the Valerian and Laurelin graphic novel series. Luc Besson is actually planning to make a movie of it currently. And I've read some of them when I was a kid. The movie news sort of prompted me to pick it up when I saw it on the library. It consisted of 3 short stories, which were very old school science fiction adventure, old school French comics. They were very clearly the earliest examples of Valerian. It really showed both in the stories and in the artwork. The artwork matured a lot during these 3 stories, but I think it matures a lot more in the following books, which I'm planning also of picking up soon. But I only gave this first volume 2.5 stars. You might have noticed I never got to one book from my TBR, which was The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, and this was for the challenge of reading someone else's favorite book. I had some family come over for the weekend, and I was out during pretty much the whole weekend and just came back home to sleep, so I didn't have any time at all for reading. But I have since picked this up, and I'm about 40 pages through, and many people commented that this is also one of their favorite books, so I'm really psyched to read this. And that only left the challenges of reading a book that you really want to read, and I think Station 11 could fulfill that challenge. And then the challenge of reading 7 books, but let's be honest, I was never aiming for it. I could only read 7 books in a week if I had only picked graphic novels to read. So that's 2 novellas, 2 graphic novels, and 1 novel for the BookTubeAthon, and I'm really happy with that, especially since I really enjoyed most of them. I hope you had fun during the BookTubeAthon also, and I'll see you later.